in those trash cans. And I would lift the trash can out because it was in a sleeve, and then there'd be snakes on it. And I was like, whoa! Hi, this is Michael Joy. Welcome to Absolute Joy. This is another long short story about Arizona. Hey, if you're moving to the desert, you better watch this. Well, rattlesnakes as kids we weren't too afraid of, but we just stayed clear of them. You knew if it was really hot out, it was too hot for the snake. But if you were in the shade or something like this, it was fair game. You were in line for getting bit. And my stepdad, who actually got bit by a rattlesnake, he was Mr. Nature to begin with. And so whenever he found a rattlesnake around the house, he would just get a shovel and he would kind of shake it up and toss it off the property. But when he got bit, he started killing them. So he was adjusting, he had citrus trees in the back of his house. And this was in Cave Creek, so it was kind of pretty rural. And he grew these trees. His orchard was his pride and joy. If it was too cold, he had heaters out there, we call them smudge pots, of grapefruit, and it's too much to eat. We used to load the truck and then we'd drive the truck to the food bank. Anyways, these trees were part of the house. And then the one day that my dad got bit, Andy, I came home, all the lights on were in the house. And I'm like, where is everybody? No note, no nothing, nada. No cell phones, right? So it wasn't until later that I got a call and they said, we're in the emergency room, Andy's been bitten by the snake. And then I got the story. And what it was that he had reached under one of the trees, he had an irrigation system to adjust one of the bubblers. Of course, the snake was there staying cool on the cool, damp soil, and he got bit in the hand. And when I went to the hospital to see him, he was at this point in the gown, on the bed, in intensive care, and his arm was uncovered, and he had these ink lines on his arm. They were measuring the swelling. And his hand, I kid you not, looked like a glove that had been blown up. And they were talking about having to slice his thumb to relieve the pressure. I'm like, is that a thing? It's like a cartoon. They were worried about the getting to his heart. Luckily, it bit his right hand, not his left, and coming up this way. He was in a lot of pain. What happened is they took him to an immediate care. Like Cave Creek was pretty small, and they didn't tell my mom that they didn't know how to deal with a snake bite. And so all this time is going by, all this time. They gave him an antivenom and he had an allergic reaction to it. And then he went into shock, I think, and then they had to take him to the, at that point he started getting real care and he was at the emergency room at a real hospital. Yeah, he was screwed up for a long time. His whole thumb went black and basically rotted, the skin rotted away and had to grow back. I mean, it's not like it fell off, but it was just absolutely destroyed, and he never got the full mobility back in his hand. Now, he was left-handed as an artist. If he had been that other way, he would have never drawn again. So it was really remarkable and scary, but ever since then, he's like, I can't afford. He's like, what if that had been your mom getting bit? So he would kill the snakes.
Rattlesnakes were normality in Arizona.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Up until now, and they just...
Still normal.
Still normal.
They are evolving to not have a rattle because they would rattle as a warning, and then they'd get shot, they'd get killed, the rattlesnakes they could get really big or they could be short and fat. It was really amazing. There's different types. Most of the time they just don't want to be bothered. Like, I'm busy being a snake, just let me be. I'm just gonna go eat that mouse, we'll leave it alone. But you can get bit. The thing is remember, we had water in front of this house. We had a pond. We had this pond, and it was basically a glorified watering hole. So it had lots of wildlife around that. We had these ivies and things, so the snakes always used to be under the ivies, and then we had owls. It was like a zoo in your front yard, but only a zoo at particular hours. Different, not during the heat of the day. You know, you get deer, we had a mountain lion there one time, we had bobcats, we had all sorts of stuff. And now the area is really developed, so it's not quite like that, but in its time, it was basically a chicken shed turned into a house, and then they built onto it, and there used to only be dirt roads out there, and yeah, this was in the 40s and the 50s.
What about scorpions? How did you live there? It's dangerous.
Didn't think about it much. So just kind of were aware. I remember there was a rain. This was when I was at 69th place. I was in 3rd grade, and I caught a scorpion and I put it in a little butter dish. At the time there was these little tubs with a clear lid, and I took it to school. My mom let me, or she didn't know, I don't know. And it was for show and tell. A big scorpion. Kind of beautifully dangerous. And it's not the big ones that are dangerous anyways, it's the little ones, apparently. I was ready for a show and tell. Like, you come in and you put your stuff away. A teacher saw it and got rid of it immediately, and I had nothing for show and tell. They're like, no, you couldn't have that here. Yeah, we sometimes had snakes in the swimming pool, and we were more afraid of cactus. We had what was called jumping cactus, it's cholla. And cholla is this big, beautiful, fuzzy looking teddy bear of a cactus, but it is death. If you happen to brush by one of those, they're in sections like little sausages, and they make these little sausage arms. And if you brush by one, it is on to you. It detaches from the cactus and it comes with you. And it's completely covered with thorns, stickers, prickers, whatever you, spines, tines, whatever we call it. And each one has a micro hook at the end. And if you get enough of them, it's a toxin in there. And the thing is when it's stuck to your leg and they're strong enough to go through your shoe, if you step on one, it'll go right through your shoe. What do? How do you get that off of you? You can't grab it with this. So we were taught early as a kid, if you don't have a pair of pliers, you use 2 thin shale stones, use the stones to flick it off of you. And I remember the first time my brother took one off of him and he flicked it and it stuck to me. I was like, are you kidding me? They hurt. They were little bitches of cactus. And our dog, Daisy, the dogs would go and get in these cactus. So if you went in the desert with your dog, you had to have pliers because you knew that dog was gonna get cactus. And they would come back and they would kind of come back limping. It's like, oh, poor girl, poor girl. And they'd take it out and they'd be running. But sometimes those things were really, what technology nature has. Cholla, jumping cactus, don't fall in them.
Why do you say it's jumping?
Because it would come off, it detaches. You barely have to touch it and it would come off. And there was interesting is there's pack rats that could build nests out of them. And some reason they could navigate. I don't know how. Don't know how.
So cactus, scorpions, and snakes were your friends over there, right?
They were our neighbors. I didn't like to talk to them often. It was something as a kid we became aware of. It was tricky because if we dig one of our underground forts, you dig an underground fort, it's good until you go back and then you find out that your fort is now a house. It's black widows. Spiders too. Yeah, they're little deviants. Black widow spiders about this big, the ones that I used to see, and they have a little red belly on them. And we used to know how to ID a lot of stuff as kids. It's like you learn which spiders are okay and which ones are not, but pretty much just spiders in general, And so my dad was like a spider hunter. One time we played a joke on him. We bought a big plastic spider, put it up in the corner in the room. And my dad comes home, he's like, whoa, look at that one, And he's like, and he goes out to the garage and he gets a can of spray and he's like, psh, psh, didn't even move. We're laughing our asses off. He's up there really close and he's foaming it. Now you can't see the spider. It's just this ball of toxic waste in our house right there. Then he was on to us. Then he's like, all right, joke's over. You owe me $6 for that bug spray. That's my dad.
Since we're talking dangerous animals and insects, is there anything you can recall from any other part of your life?
Well, I got bit by a scorpion, I got bit by a black widow. That was uncomfortable.
Black widows are not dangerous? No?
They are. It bit me right on my stomach here.
So?
It was like a lump. It was like a marble.
And you did nothing about it?
We didn't know what it was. I woke up with it. I was a little kid. I'm like, what happened? My dad's like, looks like you got bit. Didn't go away for a year.
What about the scorpion bite?
I don't remember. Just sort of like a zing,
Painful?
I don't know, it felt like a wasp. I was little. Living was the idea. You got through it, whatever. I had more trouble with cactus than with the bugs. You just weren't allowed to do stupid stuff in Arizona. If there's a pile of wood or a pile of rocks, just don't roll in the dirt, right? It's that simple. So Arizona used to be a beautiful but dangerous place to grow up. Side effect of that was common sense. I don't know that same kind of common sense happens today because they're building houses in Arizona and there's not enough water. Doors open, too far open for wild animals and things like this. But Arizona, I love you. They say Arizona is the new California, and maybe it is, but I kind of miss the old Arizona where there were cowboys, boots, dust, and not SUVs. I miss the old days a little bit. That's just what happens, right?